This is an interesting premise, though, Bratin. I've
It is.
seen this. I've been through a lot of advertising classes in college, and
Mm-hmm.
this is an interesting premise to launch this project off of. Like, okay, consumer behavior is headed towards the fact that people want healthier food options, especially for breakfast. They know that cereal has sugars, it's processed food. There's a lot of things going on.
True.
So instead of, maybe Kellogg's focusing on what if we were to try to improve the nutritional facts or the ingredients in our products. Instead, they're rebranding and kind of repackaging the same thing, the same product, maybe, uh, in a new form. How well does that work? And I'm curious to
Right.
see some of the stats of that after this project was launched.
Awesome. So we're here again for another episode, and this will be another super fun one because we're getting into the nitty gritties of how big agencies work and what makes those big agencies great and sustain for such long periods of time. Gurjinder, how's it going?
I'm really well. Thank you, Bratin. This is episode 2 of this little series that
Series.
we
Yeah.
we just started over text. We were like, okay, let's talk about what we like about some of these branding projects, what we've learned from them, and what maybe others could take away. And so that's why now we're already up to episode 2. We did, I think, 6 projects we reviewed in our last
Right.
video, and we have a handful today as well. So I'm very excited. A lot of great choices today that I'm excited to talk about because I've seen some of these projects out there, and I haven't got the chance to talk about it with maybe another designer in this way. So it'll be cool to bounce ideas off of you. So SeatGeek was one of my choices, and SeatGeek for me is an app that you go to buy tickets for events, sports events, music events, whatever it is. For me, I loved this rebrand when I first saw it. The original SeatGeek was kind of, it looked like what you would expect from maybe a ticketing software. And I'll show you like the original logo of it. And so you can see like very, very early startup, and then showing a little bit of personality, a little bit of having some fun. But again, like from far away, over time, you could say it starts to look bland.
Right.
And then SeatGeek goes to this smaller studio, this what I think they call themselves like a petite design studio, based in California. They're called Chutzpah. So SeatGeek reaches out to them, and this is the project that is delivered. So the main logo is basically a word mark with this, I don't know if you want to call it a peachy orange background,
Right.
but that
Almost.
becomes like the main hero color of this project. So again, it was a logo redesign, custom typeface developed for them, circa 2021, if you wanted to put a date on it. Again, so the goal of the rebrand, to breathe the life of live events back into the brand, differentiating from the tech sleek competitors, right? So that's something you do see. It looks like a very tech-based company in those beginning stages when it had that logo. And when you move it to that next evolution, this is where they're starting to own a personality of their own. And that's something that was important that Chutzpah helped them brought out. So let's go over like the actual pieces. So you have a stacked version of the word mark that is used in the icon. You have the horizontal word mark. And again, like in both situations, there's different treatments. It's not like they just took the top and bottom and then just placed them together. This has a different treatment to it when it's sort of an inline logo.
They've handled the
Again,
contrast really well with the
of course,
kind
yeah,
of dark background, you can say almost.
yeah,
Black text on it still looks good.
yeah,
Another
absolutely.
thing I noticed is the brand strategy is not done by them. So it's done by Mother Design. So that's interesting because then we'll be just talking about the design and respecting that and
Correct,
appreciating that.
correct, absolutely. Yeah, that's a good catch. So I like how that they have given credits to those.
Right. It's a nice
And
touch.
yeah, it's an interesting thing, I think. that's like, okay, you're a design studio. Maybe you should also be responsible for design strategy, for brand strategy, and all of that. But it's not entirely necessary, right?
True.
Um, it's also a matter of fact that I can niche down on just design and make that work as an agency and make money off of that and build a business off of that. And I don't have to have every single facility within mine. I can partner with others. And I think partnering with others in terms of this agency service model is really a hidden gem. I want to
True.
explore more of that in my own career. Um, so,
It's
like you
also
said,
kind of taken for granted in the branding
yeah,
space that if you're a brand designer, you will do the strategy and the entirety of the deliverables, animations, 3D, everything yourself,
correct,
which is,
correct,
funnily enough, it's not the case in UI, in the website of things. There's a
yeah,
front end developer, there's a UX researcher, there's a UX designer, then there's a UI designer. So it's pretty clear that different people have different capabilities. And there's just UI focused studios who do just the UI. And so this is a great example of that.
correct. I totally agree with that. Um, and then we have a lot of great mock-ups. I don't
I was
know
about to say that.
how they did this. Maybe they photoshopped into a real image, right? Or maybe this is a capture of after the
Right,
brand
this
has
is
been launched, which would
after
be
the implementation.
easier to do.
Right.
But if they were to show us actual slideshows from when they presented this to SeatGeek, we could see some of those original mock-ups. But this is another great piece of their whole project. Their creative director, Tim McCarthy, a shout out to him, and Mother, the other studio that helped them set the tone for the project, so the branding side in terms of strategy. But one thing that they did is that they looked at the custom typefaces found in show posters of the past. So this is one big thing here, Bratin, that I don't know if you'd be familiar with, but a lot of this is based in the culture of New York City. So sports have been a huge thing here. Baseball has been a huge thing. And this sort of graphic design, typography-based posters became really popular, and it started right here in this city. And you can see some very different examples from the past.
Right.
I love that there's a WrestleMania sign in here. I'm a big wrestling fan since I was
Sure.
young. So shout
Yes.
out to that. I like seeing that. This is a cereal box cover that they took inspiration from, General Mills. Then you have some tickets, right? So if you were to go, like for example, if you're going to an event, that's what the ticket would look like in the past. So they took inspiration from all of that, and they built sort of a overarching identity system based on that. And I'm just scrolling quickly because I want to find like those specific kind of moments. So the typeface is one of those things that comes from that. That sort of, and we saw this with Topo Chico as well last time. Is sort of that hand
Right.
drawn typography that we saw in their logo. That top shadow, as we called it. You're seeing the same thing done here. Look at this. Like, this is a little bit of a maximalist design, but you can see where the inspiration came from.
So it's risky as well, moving from like a tech
Yeah,
side of things, like a techie branding to completely handwritten typefaces, even on the body text. That's
correct,
bold. And
correct.
shout out to the strategy people at Mother Design. They've done a good job because
Yeah,
it feels like it's a new brand. It feels like it's young and it feels sporty as well, which was missing with the tech kind of thing.
that's right. Take a look at this mock-up here. I'd imagine this is something you'd show to the client when you're actually presenting
Yes.
it. You're showing them, okay, here's what everyone else is doing. And there's shades of blue, shades of purple, colors that we say are trustworthy colors. And then smack dab in the middle, you have this peachy orange that feels like a punch in your face kind of a thing. It's that adrenaline rush that you get from attending a live event with thousands of other people. That's the feeling that you get when you see the SeatGeek logo amongst this grid.
This is done really well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love the illustration
Seven with
strategy as well.
Yes.
right? So you can see kind of, and this is where product UI meets branding. And
Hmm.
it's these little moments, right? The experience, like we talked about last time too. It starts with the logo, right? That's one thing. How does it extend to then every single other touch point that you can possibly imagine where the brand is going to live? And one of that is, I guess, um, this is the onboarding screen of when you download SeatGeek. This is what you get through. You get through 3 different slideshows of everything that you get with SeatGeek, the main benefits, and each one of them has sort of their own illustrations that belong to the brand itself. So I love how that marries product UI and branding together. And once again, you see that sort of illustration play out. So, what are your final thoughts on SeatGeek?
I think it's super experimental and bold, and probably that has worked for them, and that's why they have stuck with it. But even from like a not distracted, even from a distant lens, if you have to talk about this, the implementation is really nice.
Yes, absolutely. And I think if they wanted to accomplish that idea of not just looking like another tech company as a
Mhm.
ticketing software and actually look as a brand with personality and character to it, I think they were able to accomplish that. So kudos to them for doing that. Um, where do we want to head to next?
Can we look at the Hudspa website once?
Yes, absolutely. So let's take a look at Hoodspot. They've done really well with their website. This is a little different from what it was a few months ago, but they keep
Mhm.
changing and iterating. So from just first view, I'm seeing like it's like a video game dashboard. Like I'm seeing all of the items that I might need in one view, right? So you
Mhm.
have your social links over here. You have your main navigation. You have this interesting left side, which I don't
Yeah.
know exactly what it does yet. Maybe it's a static thing. And
Mhm.
then on 4 corners, you have this sort of crosshairs aesthetic, and in the middle, obviously.
Mhm.
So this is really
It's kind of
fun.
like a frame.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like a frame of like a camera. And look at this, like when it scrolls through a project, it picks the main color from it and turns the
Right.
background into that.
The logo also changes. Nice.
Yes. I love how the grid is created here. So this
Mhm.
feels like a smaller card, and then this takes the wider width. And then there's moments, right, where they kind of break the grid, and it's not the
Mhm.
same thing. Um, that's done really well. I mean,
So they have creative partners.
they've worked with the worldwide brands, so
Mhm.
um, a legitimate agency. And another thing, Bratin, that they've done well is yes, they're an agency, and then they've created products to add onto their revenue streams. So they sell their own fonts that they've designed in house. These are at times really fun fonts, like this one. You wouldn't expect us to use this in corporate branding as the main
Mhm.
font, but then you also have this version, which is a different font that you could use as a corporate
Right.
identity. So you have a mix of a lot of those things. And then they sell other things. They sell templates. They sell posters. They sell booklets. They sell brand merch of their own, of the Hutzpah brand itself. So
It's interesting that they have it on the homepage, right?
yeah,
Instead of like a shop
absolutely.
page or something.
Oh
So
yes,
they are like they're going for it. That yes,
yeah,
we can
they
help you
are.
guys as well, and you guys as
Yes, absolutely. And look, they have a visual identity course that they're offering too.
well. Mhm.
So uh, this reminds me a lot of what the future has done. Is they were a branding agency, they turned into an educational
Mhm.
company, and so you're seeing a little bit of that. They're expanding their horizons. This is one. This is one famous book by them. I recognize this cover anywhere that I could see it, um, and so you should definitely check this out if you do want to
Sure.
buy it. But I'd read the reviews first. I'd read what people think about it. Um, and look at this, like, okay, now you reach the bottom, ready to start a project, contact us. And thanks for stopping by. And just like
This
a
again, this feels like a
super cool
homepage,
illustration.
like a
Yes,
hero section.
yes, absolutely. And this is their footer.
Mhm.
I love how the illustration includes some California imagery because they are a California-based brand and agency. So altogether, really done well.
Looks good.
I love how the logo is a purely signature-based logo. It's a word mark.
Mhm.
It looks beautiful. I could imagine this on a T-shirt, on a baseball cap, and I would love to wear that in public. So okay, so that's the Chutzpah page. Where do we want to head to?
Heading on to the next one. Let's do
Medium it is.
medium.
Okay, great. So we go to Collins Agency by Brian Collins and team. And this is one of those projects that they've done just a few years back. I think this would also might be like 2020, 21. Medium, for those who don't know, is what you would call a online blog platform where anyone can write a blog. They can post it into Medium, and it's sort of like a social media blog in a way. And it feels more traditional because it is the long form blogs that you would expect that people might create on their own websites. Well, you don't need to do that. You can create it on one platform. You have more distribution this way. So one of the first things that you're seeing as a mock-up and emotion is like every idea, writer, poet, studio needs a medium, right? So that idea right there is an important one. I think they're touching on the story that they're trying to tell already. What I love is, and this is sort of, I think one of those projects that set the trend for it is this logo itself.
Mhm.
So sure, it's a static circle in the beginning, and then it's as if it's like a motion reel and it's turning towards you and you see the movement of the circles, right? And so this flattened yet 3D type of logo is one of those things that I think Medium kind of started that trend, and you're starting to see a lot of that out there in the branding world, and just in like logos that people create, post on Twitter and Dribble.
If I'm not wrong, the
So
Dropbox branding was done by them as well.
yes, they also did that one.
If you see that,
That's
that
correct.
also has kind of like a dynamism in that
It
logo.
does. Yes, absolutely.
It might be a Collins thing. Who knows?
It might be that this was, I think, 2017.
Mhm.
So definitely a few years back. But Medium is the more recent one, and again, I think they've kind of established what that trend is. Just take a look at like all of these
Right.
mock-ups and the way that they're kind of displaying everything. This is incredible work right here. So this is
Mhm.
like what you would expect from a very classical, grotesque type of typography poster. And there's like graphic designers that have been very famous for doing this as their signature, but they're doing this for a corporate brand, which is interesting to see. You can see how the movement works with the Medium logo and the icon itself. Just very beautiful. I love how
It
it kind
reminds
of
me of
moves
the
through.
Coke Studio animation.
Oh yes, the Coke Studio. You're right. Yeah, it is
Right.
very similar to that.
Mhm.
What do you think about the symbolism behind this icon? Like, what do you get out of it?
Feels like it's talking about the dynamism, firstly, of the medium, that you don't have to
Yeah,
be, just a writer, just a studio. You can be anyone and just write on medium because everyone needs a medium. That
yeah,
communication is for sure. Also, it probably, as in this specific animation, I was thinking, why did they choose this animation? They could have done this, they could have done various things. This probably is wishing to encapsulate some sort of, again, that we explained with decathlon, that it represents a boundary, but at the same time it represents the infiniteness.
yeah, yeah. That's a great way to
And
describe it.
I really love that they've stuck with the serif typography on the word mark.
Correct,
They could have gone away
correct,
with that because they're doing a
correct.
complete refresh. There's grotesque typography posters, as you talked about. Still, they
Yes,
kept that serif font, and it's a superb nice touch.
Correct. Absolutely. I like that you point that out because that's one of the things we see with combination marks is that
Mhm.
they try to build some contrast between what the icon is and what the word mark is, and then they try
Mhm.
to make them so distinct yet still work together, but so distinct that they could live on their own, right?
Mhm.
So the medium logo, the word mark itself could live on its own, like it's living here, as you see,
Right.
or the icon could live by itself. And so they give both of them just enough character so that they can live on their own and be different enough. So that's why I think serif was one of the go-to options. The typography that they use for the website and overall experience is a mix of serif for big display fonts and then sans serif for smaller, just text based. So that's one of the things you're seeing here. I love how they use words and text and letters as a form of art in these animations. Um, and that's one of the thing with the whole area of typography design. If you go through that, if you dive into that rabbit hole, you're gonna you're gonna have a newfound love for seeing how typography is placed together in either paragraph format, line format like this, and how by itself typography can also be a graphic visual asset.
Mhm.
So that's something you're seeing done really well here.
Like there was something I was learning about typographic kerning, which is
Yes.
you see like someone like a Chris Doe can just tell you that the kerning is off by looking at a text. I was like,
Yes.
you know, how do you develop that? He
Yeah.
also talked about this, that you see a word as a shape, and if that's difficult, invert the word, then try and
Yeah.
do that. It becomes so much easier. Makes sense.
Correct. Correct.
Collins and typography and Collins and color are a match made in heaven.
Yes, they are. This is their bread and butter.
Mhm.
They completely changed the game with especially the colors that you're seeing here, right? Every
Can you
every frame you
can you go
look
up a
at.
bit?
Yeah.
They have like no the second one
This one?
after that.
Okay.
Like they have some mock-ups with the text as string.
Yeah.
The one after this probably. Like they have three mock-ups. Yeah, this one.
Yes. That's right.
That's super cool.
Absolutely. Yeah. This is the level of work that is world
Mhm.
class right here. Um, Nowhere in the guidelines, uh, it might tell you that you're not allowed to do this with typography. You're not allowed to do this. They're really just giving you the tools to the kingdom, and you could do whatever you want with it. Just remember the basic guidelines that we look at typography for a medium. This is a rule for the medium brand that I'm implying. You look at typography as an art form and an asset uh, that you can use visually by itself. So
Right.
that's something that they're using, right? So, like, I love how this plus is developed. My life was so great, I thought I could do it without training. And then you kind of go through and you read that, and it's done really well. Now, this stuff, now, Bratin, this is very artsy. This doesn't
Mhm.
work that well in the corporate environment, even in the world of advertising, because you want people to read things from far away. You want them to get that. But there are definitely context and moments where stuff like this is used and it's appreciated, right?
Right.
Um, you're seeing the colors, pinks, whites. I think there's one place coming soon where they're going to show you all the colors. This might be one of them, but it's explorative, right? It's an explorative identity. The basis is always in white and black, and then you can add anything you want onto it. And here it is. So this is like a look at some of the extended color library um, that they're showing
Another
you.
thing that I kind of realized was they're never using white typography almost.
Yeah,
Right? They have darker backgrounds, but they're
yeah,
still using blacks and creating that contrast.
yeah.
See again.
I think yeah. There you
This is the
saw
first
one.
time, yeah.
Yeah, but that's definitely for the logo, not for
True.
the actual text. I don't
Yeah,
think we've
that's
seen that. Maybe this year, but
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, there is a dark mode for Medium if you open the platform.
Mhm.
But besides that, like just the way that they're combining colors, the way that they've combined the fonts together, um, showing again, like we looked at the logo itself. The circular form is very modern. It is very in time with what's going on right now, and then the serif in the word mark is sort of a call to the past of news and media and
Right.
uh, you know trustworthiness in terms of those that write online. So you get all of those feelings from it. So let me
Superb
get
work.
your final word on Medium.
Yeah. They've used typography as a proper art form in this one,
Yeah,
and that's a Collins forte for sure. Let's get into the Collins website, and I'm pretty sure we'll see more of that.
absolutely. Let's head there. So again, right from the get-go, you're seeing a grid, but you're seeing us
Mhm.
breaking the grid. And so I love how the contrast of the larger text on the left, and
And
then
no
you
image
go
on
to
the
the
hero section.
no image, not yet. And then you scroll down and you go for some of those projects. But overall, like they've reached a point where they're so well known that now they can lead with the mission statement instead of leading with an actual project.
Right.
Um, which is different from, say, my own agency website where I have to show both in order to land a
Mhm.
client. They don't have to do that, right? They go based off their mission. What do you think about their mission statement? Make your future. Well, I didn't mean to do that, but this is incredible. They also have this. It's a fun thing. Make your future so irresistible it becomes inevitable. What do you think about that copywriting there?
That's when these big agencies write these that it's impactful, right? Because you know
That's
that
right.
it makes sense for them because
Yeah,
they're actually working with the brands who will be
yeah,
irresistible, the stalwarts in the future.
yeah,
It always makes sense. Yeah, it's a
yeah.
transformation consultancy and an ad ages ad ages 2023 transformation firm of the year. Nice.
All right, all right. So again,
And I
like,
also realized I think it's almost like an infinite scroll on this website. It's a hugely long
yeah.
website.
Oh yes, I think so too. Yeah, there's a lot of great stuff that they show here, um, and it keeps going. Yeah, it is
Mhm.
sort of an
Again,
infinite scroll.
grids, text image, grids, text image.
Yeah, I think this is all articles, posts,
Right.
other media that they've been a part of. So I mean, they have really strong SEO for
Mhm.
this with the backlinking for
Right.
this website. So that's something also in their favor. Um, but yes, Collins, that is. Here's like how they show the work reel when you hover over it. You get to see kind of what the project is in terms of words. Um, that's how it's kind of flows. So again, like they
Awesome.
have a grid system. It continues to break at times, and they just have fun with it. So
Mhm.
that's something to learn from as well when you're creating compositions and layouts and grids is to have fun at times, set the rules, but also know when the right time is to break them. And
True.
that's sort of a craft we have to learn over time. So that was Medium. That was
Yes.
Collins. Should we head to Pentagram?
Yes.
Let's do it. Okay. Pentagram um, is probably the king of branding, and they have been for the longest time, just because the level of projects and depth of their portfolio. And this is one of those recent projects that is actually an AI startup company that went to Pentagram to get their branding done. Now, when we talk about the world of startups, you have to think about, okay, at what stage of a startup do we go from the scrappiness where we started, where maybe we booked somebody on Fiverr or Upwork to create a logo, or maybe we did it ourselves in Canva, which is possible now, to hiring literally the number one branding agency in the world to get your branding done for you. Like,
Mhm.
I think that requires a lot of commitment and a lot of trust in your own understanding of what product market fit you have. Because if
Right.
you get that wrong, right? If you get your positioning wrong at this moment,
Mhm.
uh, all of this effort is wasted, because all of this effort might not mean much when you have to do a pivot coming up.
Mhm.
So this is incredible. Cohere is an AI-based company. Um, so as we're seeing through, and I've kind of done I've done a post on this project as well many months back, but you can see a little bit of them explaining the story behind it without even saying it in words, but they're
Mhm.
showing you how everything connects together. This reminds me of when I look under a microscope, and we used to do
Right.
this in science class. You get to see the cells that make up an organism, right?
Mhm.
Or a piece of an organism. Um, Using the fusion of natural and artificial as our basis, we took our inspiration
Mhm.
from biology, anchoring our identity in the visual language of cells, right? So it's beautifully done in
Is
that.
this startup in like the medtech space?
No, they're AI.
Hmm.
They're an
Welcome to NLP
AI
now.
company.
That's a bold decision from them. And I'm pretty sure it
Absolutely.
also kind of is a market positioning that, okay,
Yeah,
we're here for the long term. And since we're here for the long term, we'll get our branding done from the best of best.
correct.
And I'm pretty sure that works as a good PR for them as well.
Correct. Absolutely. It sets them up as a
Mhm.
serious business. Um, it also means that whatever investment rounds that they had going on, they took a
Mhm.
lot of that and put it
Right.
into branding, which is a
It's a
big
huge
commitment,
investment.
right? Um, but Pentagram, to their benefit, has delivered on this project. Like, for example, this is the topography. I think it's a custom based topography,
Mhm.
but this is really cool. I've seen Pentagram do this before too. And I've seen Collins do this with Spotify,
Right.
is where they create kind of just an internal developed product where you can go in and make the little edits that you need, and you can have and recreate the quality of work that Pentagram themselves have created. So if that, for
Mhm.
example, starts with a font, if you want to add those little indents and those breakages, you can do that by yourself with this sort of slider product, right? This sort
Right.
of slider UI. So that's possible for them. I love how this explains how the font and the graphic language of cells works together. So it shows you why it separates, where it separates, right?
So cool because as a software, that typographic thing that we were looking at, it can be
Yeah,
used by any designer. And let's say we're doing a billboard design. There
correct.
has to be more cuts and a thicker typeface. The designer can just do that and just export it. I'm pretty sure it's an internal tool as well. That's
That's
super
right.
interesting. This
That's right.
one with this animation,
Yeah, incredible.
they know the design language, and once they're there, they just concretely kill it.
That's right. Absolutely. This is just taking a completely different look at, whether you want to call it a social media post. This looks like an Instagram size or Twitter size post, and you're just doing something completely separate. So you're using those cells and you're creating that. Well, we talk about like builder tools. I don't know if this is Blender or this is something that they custom built for them. Whatever it is a 3D rendering tool. So they not only introduce the 2D language of these graphical assets, but you can also bring them into the 3D world and kind of just create them as these objects and then use them like they do here. So
I love this
just by
model.
that, yeah,
Right.
just by that, you can see kind of what this looks like. The iconography also pulls from it. There's lined versions, there's filled versions. They gave them a vast library of both options. Options are also an important thing, Bratin, is as you deliver something as a branding agency, you want to give the client the freedom to choose at times what the right piece is for what right context. So sometimes the line might be more important for product UI. Sometimes the filled is used for dark mode patterns. You need both options. And if you don't have one of them, then the client might end up hiring somebody else later and they might mess up the whole thing. So it's better to have that since the beginning. Here you can see how the motion graphics work within those small icon spaces too, which is incredible to see. That level of details is something you don't get from anything besides the best in the world. So
Right. I love the font as well. Have you used the font Space Mono?
yes, I have.
It kind of gives off that feeling. It's in
It
like
does.
light serifs, almost lav serifs.
Yes,
It's futuristic, but it's not on your face.
correct. It looks like a code-based font, one that you
Mhm.
would use as a developer too. Yeah, just look at this. I think this is what the product actually looks like. I love the button. So just take a look at the button. So you would have, get started, maybe the plus next to it, button plus icon. Here they have literally split them like the cells into two objects, but if you were to hover over this, it would probably just act as one object.
True.
So incredible little touches like that just bring everything together.
What's unique to see is for them, the mission or the visual language matters the most. So once
Yeah.
they have figured that out, then they just keep figuring things out and don't compromise on anything. Be it the
Yes.
buttons, be it the typographic thing. They've created internal things, internal tools. I'm pretty sure they have to give the HTML and the CSS code for this that they have built.
Correct.
But they'll do that
Correct.
because they don't want to compromise once the language is set. And
Correct.
that's the thing with a big agency. So it's
Absolutely.
one of the best ones at that.
Absolutely.
That same like illustration imagery continues.
Yeah.
And it's so fun. Like it's just abstract shapes, but cut in a
Correct.
certain way, certain angle. And you can just put in some 3D rocks that are colored a certain way, and it'll become a
Correct.
super cool imagery.
Correct. I love how this mock-up just grids everything out in very
Right.
different ways. Like for me, it feels like the iPhone is a lot smaller than whatever this is, but it might be an
Mhm.
iPad, so they might be proportional. But to me, it looks like it's supposed to be smaller, and then there's a lot going on, but it's done in such a interesting way that it breaks symmetry, and it's interesting. So again, like the mock-ups, the art direction for mock-ups is entirely in its a world of its own. So this looks like a text-based chat
Mhm.
software. Compare this to what ChatGPT looks like, which is very simple, right? They have their own language, but in terms of brand identity, the way that now bleeds into the product UI is also another thing to take a look at. Done incredibly well here. Wow, look at this. This is like actual signage as well, what the office space could look like. Incredible.
Yeah.
Very well done.
So interesting that for the illustrations now they don't have to go to a pentagram. They have
Yes,
that blender kind of a background. They can just take some rocks, take some shapes, make it in house.
correct. Correct. And it's also the idea that okay, you want to create this. Um you're not restricted to just one
Hmm.
library. Like I could deliver maybe a Google Drive or Dropbox folder with 100 images, and you get to use that however you want to. This is them saying we just unlocked infinity for you, and you can create things on your own to an
Right.
infinite degree, and whatever they look like, they'll still work no matter how weird or angular they might be. They'll still work because that's the language. That's how versatile and a mix of the natural biology world, a mix of technology, that's what it is. So anything could work, and you're not restricted, which is an incredible thing to see done at
That's
this
something to
scale
learn
as
from,
well.
yeah, from design at this scale. It's something that lots of designers can learn, which is when you're working with a brand, then you have to make sure that you're not a liability afterwards,
Yeah.
because it's not just about delivery. you have to make sure you empower their in-house designers as well, because it's
Correct.
like a handoff. We call it a handoff, right? It's a
Correct.
design delivery handoff. And so you give them all the tools that they can now use to make this vision even better and keep it consistent for years.
Correct. Absolutely.
Super.
Handing the keys to the kingdom and letting them do what they need to do with it, and making sure that they handle the kingdom well.
Right.
That's the whole thing. So
Awesome.
that was Pentagram. That was Cohere. Definitely check them out. Check out their website as well when you get off this, and you'll get to see kind of how everything works in real life. And also, I don't know when this was done, maybe 2022 or 3, but it'll be cool to see how Cohere is actually handling it now. Because let's take a look at it actually.
Sure.
So how are they handling it now? Things still look consistent. Yep. I think things still look pretty consistent to what the original vision was. So it still continues to be that clean, crisp identity, and they haven't.
It's a B2B product, yeah. That's where they get the money.
That's right. Absolutely. Okay. No,
Nice.
they've done well to keep it intact. So that's always a great thing to see. Congratulations to them and this whole project.
Right.
Let's take a look at Wolf Allens next.
Yes, I'll share the screen now.
Go ahead.
Still showing sharing your screen, yeah. Just a second. Wolf Allens. All right. Can you see it? Is the screen
Yes,
visible
I can
now?
see.
Yeah. So this is Wolf Allens, another world-class design agency. And the Patreon rebranding was really fascinating to me because they just made it too organic. And it didn't feel, at first when I saw it, I was like, this feels different, of course, but is it appropriate? Will it work? It works. It works for sure. Because they're working with artists, the creative people, that's their entire field, and dynamism is the focal point of it. 250,000 creators and 10 plus increase in monthly web visits. That's a huge number. 3.5 billion in creative profits. So it's pretty understandable that Patreon had to go this way because of how business was going for them. And especially with the ownership as well, in October 2023, Patreon saw a 10% increase in monthly web visits, 2 million unique monthly visitors. And again, another thing that's always fun to see is credits. Credits where it's due. 3D by David McLeod, Patreon in-house team, wordmark done by someone else. This is something that we don't a lot of times think about, that even at such a big scale, Wolf Allens also delegates some part of the work to other great people around the world.
Yes. Yes.
And that's something that a lot of us can learn from.
Yes, it's a team. If you want to create something truly world class, it is a team effort.
Absolutely.
These projects aren't made to be done by yourself unless they're very small budgets. But once you start reaching those higher budgets, you have to start sharing the load.
This mock-up looks so good. Again, like you put it in context, and this of course stands out.
Yeah.
Now that I see it more, it feels like a guitar pluck that you use to like play the guitar, which is also super fun.
Yeah.
When it comes to creativity, change is the only constant, of course, and it only made sense for them.
That's right.
The Patreon, like a lot of people, when we have typography as a choice for a word mark, they'll write the entire word Patreon and maybe do some flair to it and try and add a symbol, like we saw with Medium, right? The Medium word mark is different, the symbol is different. Other times you will see some specific sort of logo mark itself, which is an abstraction from the word mark. With this, it's super fun because it's an abstraction from a word mark for sure, but it's super distinct. Even though it's a P, but it almost doesn't feel like it. It feels like a blob, as has been shown on the right.
Yeah. And that's
Yeah.
again, like we've talked about before, but that's a blob, right? That's the icon, and that's an
Hmm.
incredibly hard commitment to make for a big
True.
company like Patreon, right? Because there's a lot on
Hmm.
the line for them. They're not just a startup. Um,
Hmm. I think the dynamism helps them really well because they can portray just so many
yes,
things, textures, and they don't have to stick to one thing. It's
yeah,
because now they don't have a logo mark, they have a shape. They have a shape as a
yeah,
logo. They can just
yeah,
fill that shape with anything.
yeah.
This mock-up
It's
specifically is so cool.
this fits the category of what you would call a dynamic logo. So you can treat it,
Hmm. Hmm.
you can put any treatment you want on it, and it still gives away the same message. Same thing with
Right.
what Apple has done with their icon too.
Yes.
Really cool. These are interesting photography choices. So this
Hmm.
is like a
This kind of,
duotone aesthetic, right?
yes.
But it's almost completely unseeable what it is. It looks almost abstract. I've never seen it
Yeah.
done with the gray and a primary color.
Hmm. All of it looks superbly done. This is a new touch for sure. The gray and
Yes.
the duotone, the gray and the blues,
Yeah.
and they have this one as well.
Yeah.
I mean, a creative company who works with creative people, of course, you would get creativity.
Mhm.
Hmm.
This
Again,
comes
with the
from
logo mark. Yeah, go ahead.
yeah. This comes from again like a group of some of the best in their craft sitting together in one
Right.
room and just discussing, throwing around ideas. And then
Hmm.
also, as you might have seen from a lot of agencies, they show their meeting room with a whole wall filled with printed
Hmm.
papers of different logo options, post-it notes, everything. It looks like a big discovery workshop every single time.
Right, right.
That's the level of thinking this takes.
Everywhere it's been implemented super well because
Yeah,
that's the flexibility that logo mark at that scale gives. It's a big commitment to make. It's a risky one,
yeah, yeah.
but once you have done that, then yeah, you can do it with
It remi-
watches. You can do it with everything.
yeah. It reminds me of a quote by Sagi Haviv, and I think we touched
Hmm.
on this the other day. But a logo and a symbol is supposed to be a vessel for really all the
Hmm.
emotions and attachments you have with a brand. And this to me is like a legitimate, actual, literal vessel
Hmm.
for anything and everything, right? Creativity. Um, this
Right.
sort of blob P has now become a vessel for you can turn it into anything. You can treat it like
Mhm.
anything, and it retains that idea and that commitment to that mission. Um, so that's something you're seeing done well
Here,
here.
if you look at
And
the word mark as well of the
yeah,
word Patreon, you will see that it's kind of blobby. It has what you call ink jets or something
yes,
in the typography. Yeah,
yeah, ink blots or ink something
yeah,
related to it. Yeah,
done superbly well.
without the motion graphics here, I think
Mhm.
this would be a hard thing to sell. It
It
would
will
be
be. Yeah.
like without that right there, where okay, it goes from really anything in abstract, and it
Mhm.
becomes that P. Without
Mhm.
having that there, really hard to sell this.
Yeah, because in this mockup, if you'll see, it'll be so hard to sell because where's the brand introducing Jade Nova creator stories, and there's something as an
Yeah,
icon. Probably if you don't know that, where is the
yeah,
brand logo? And then you
yeah,
tell them that that's the brand logo. They're like, okay, I mean, come on.
yeah,
But yeah, if you know how to use it, again, that's where the power of design plus implementation comes in, which is
yeah,
these big agencies know how to bring that vision in,
yeah,
and again, done superbly well. As far as the website goes, simple website. They talk about the creative transformation of brands across the world. They have a show reel. I always am interested in how big agency websites do their work section. This is a simple grid. Lots of them have simple grids. There's the featured news.
that's right.
I love that personality with the W. Well, yeah, this thing as well. Kind of
Yeah,
stretches.
yeah.
Yeah, superbly done. Any last thoughts?
Again, uh, extremely hard to sell Patreon without the motion graphics, and I think the secret sauce here is in the presentation of this brand.
Mhm.
And I know they put amazing thought and strategy behind it, but to sell
Right.
this to a client and to sell this to
Mhm.
the rest of the world, because I
Mhm.
know when this came out, it elicited a lot of um 50-50 buzz, right? People loved it, a lot of people hated it, but that's fine. That comes with branding, and that comes with playing with something and trying something new with a piece or object that people have come to know and love for a very long time. So it always is a hard thing to let go of something old and accept something new. So this is one of those
They've worked with the
examples
biggest
of
of
that.
brands.
They have.
It's superbly awesome. Moving on.
Mhm.
You see this one?
Yeah, Kellogg's.
Kellogg's. And now we come to Landor. The company Landor itself is almost 80 plus years, still strongly standing, one of the best in the world.
Yeah,
And they don't compromise on layouts or all those things. They don't care about that. They just
correct,
have big text,
correct.
lots of big text. Iconic Kellogg's design. Of course, they were losing their relevance. The brand was fading fast. Its difference eroded by competitors.
Yeah.
And so they needed a rebrand. Mm-hmm. Breaking down the logo mark. Nice.
This is an interesting premise, though, Breton. I've
It is.
seen this. I've been through a lot of advertising classes in college, and
Mm-hmm.
this is an interesting premise to launch this project off of. Like, okay, consumer behavior is headed towards the fact that people want healthier food options, especially for breakfast, and they've come to learn that. Right here, like, listen closely to what I'm about to say. Like, they've they know that cereal has sugars, it's processed food. There's a lot of things going on.
Cool.
So instead of, maybe Kellogg's focusing on what if we were to try to improve the nutritional facts or the ingredients in our products. Instead, they're rebranding and kind of repackaging the same thing, the same product, maybe, uh, in a new form. How well does that work? Um, and I'm curious to
Right.
see some of the stats of that after this project was launched.
Mm-hmm. That's a good perspective actually, because they're talking about differentiation and the brand losing its relevance. Was
Yeah,
it losing its relevance because of their positioning and their packaging and their communication and their branding and their
yeah,
design, or
yeah.
was it just purely based on the fact that people don't want to have sugar in breakfast?
Correct, correct. Was it
And
because of the product? Right?
yeah, but for that, I think that's not Landor's thing to decide, though.
Of course, of
Right? It's
course.
for Kellogg's to say that okay, we're sticking with this product, we're sticking with this positioning strategy. What you can
Yeah,
do for us? So they were like, okay, we'll make you an amazing looking sugary breakfast brand.
yeah,
Again, Kellogg's,
yeah.
don't sue us. But
Please.
yeah, yeah,
We're just reviewing. We're critics.
yes. It's super. Again, it's. I think it's only these big agencies who probably have like negotiation classes every week who can
Yeah,
do this kinds of things like the logo mark, the word mark. It bleeds away.
yeah.
It bleeds
I
into the
love
next
that.
fold of the packaging,
Yeah,
right? But
I
how do you sell that,
yeah.
right? Like
That's
literally
right.
half of the logo is not visible. The K is cut off, L is cut off.
That's right.
We are
Like,
taught to just shrink down the logo, have it
yeah.
contrasting with the background,
Oh
and put it
yeah.
in the middle.
Oh
They just go
yeah.
opposite.
This takes a lot of just standing your ground. Like when you're
Mhm.
in that presentation hall, and obviously, I'm telling you, like, obviously somebody said, "Why is it bleeding off? Can we just like, can you help
Mhm.
us fit that into one frame?" Because you know
True.
how supermarkets are. Supermarkets don't look like that. They're flat,
Mhm.
straightforward, and you're going to see them. You could run your hand across and it's a flat surface. Like
True.
you're going to see the front, you're not going to see that corner angle. How do you sell that then?
Mm.
Right? How do you sell that to the clients? You have to be really firm in your position, and you can't like let anybody run over you when you're presenting design.
Right.
Especially because you're working with business level people, right? You're working with executives that are, you know, hard and tested, and you're working with these types of people. How do you sell your original vision without them trying to change it too much? That's something that I think they were able to sell really well. I think
Right.
Kellogg's also has the advantage that once you start just seeing that K and that signature begin, you don't need to
Mhm.
see the final two letters to know what brand it is. And that's
True.
the level that they've reached. This wouldn't work for a small D2C brand that was just launched yesterday. So
Right.
that's also a difference.
One thing I was noticing with this specific packaging, the right side of the packaging fold is the same.
Yeah.
They just change the front
Oh,
because it's a mock-up, of course.
that's right. Okay.
Everybody cuts costs, and it's only natural.
In little moments,
With,
yeah.
yeah, with this mock-up, something that stood out really well is how they have done the dark chocolate and the milk chocolate. The K kind of
Yeah.
bleeds over that
Yes.
the product. I would
Yes.
have loved to see more of that in other ones, but that probably wouldn't have worked because it would have
Absolutely. And
blocked the typography.
these packages are interesting because
It
Kellogg's,
is.
here's another thing which is interesting about this. Like Rice Krispies,
Mhm.
Frosties, um,
Right.
Nutrigrain, all of these are incredible brands by themselves. People know
Hmm.
Frosties cereal, but
Hmm.
Kellogg's is sort of that parent company that, okay, you know who owns all of this? Kellogg's. Why is the Kellogg's logo so big compared to the Frosties logo in this mock-up? And is this like actual packages that was sent out into stores and sold? And why was the reasoning behind that? Obviously it's the Kellogg's rebrand, but which is more important for people to know? An interesting thought.
It is in Amazon. It's saying, yeah.
Yeah. Wow, look at that.
Hmm.
So Kellogg's now kind of graduates into a brand of its own that
Hmm.
says, okay, once you see Kellogg, then you trust that yes, this is a good quality cereal, and whatever
This is
in
another
your interpretation could be good
right.
quality though. But
Another thing that comes to mind as an interpretation to do this, which is again the Rice Krispies, the Frosties, Cocoa Pops. These are all recognizable by themselves, and so I think this also presents a reason why the Kellogg's wordmark kind of bleeds on the side. They are looking at Kellogg's as if it's in the background. It's part
yeah,
of that background. It's part of that packaging. That's not the product. And that's why you'll see even Rice Krispies, it's the product and it's written on the product itself. Like Cocoa Pops, there is a Cocoa Pops product. The word is written on it and that mascot. And that's with everything. Unless it's just a Kellogg's thing like a milk chocolate or something or Nutri-Grain.
yeah,
Right?
yeah.
They have the
I think that
product
yeah,
on the product. That's super interesting.
it is, isn't it? And I think you captured it
Mhm.
well. Like Kellogg's is supposed to be the background here,
Mhm.
even though it is in the most vibrant red you've probably ever
Right.
seen. It's in the background, and it's
It's in
that
full display, but
trustworthy,
yeah.
right? It's that trustworthy parent that is always going to
Hmm.
be there. That
Mm.
makes sense. I like this. I like that movement. Um,
Yeah, this one.
yeah. So a lot of these mock-ups are pretty much just like product packaging based, and then now in the
Yes.
next image you start to see some posters and how it could
Hmm.
be done in other ways, and sort of like a chocolate bar you open up and you eat the Kellogg symbol,
Hmm.
um, and you're
They're
pouring
still
the Kellogg's
sticking,
logo
yeah,
like
with
cereal.
this position,
Yeah,
which is interesting because you really grasp this point really well. That does this positioning work for them in the future? Will it continue to work?
yeah,
And that's for Kellogg's to figure out and for us to see.
yeah,
Biggest redesign in a century, pretty sure, yeah.
mhm,
Meaningful evolution, revolution.
yeah,
The
yeah.
pack is back. Kellogg's packaging, ditching the Photoshop effects to show their cereals with confidence.
Right.
Right.
Okay, now we have some results.
Mhm.
Now we're seeing
6%.
the results. There you go. That's proof that it's worked. 9% increase in communicating health and natural benefits.
Mhm.
6% uplift in sales post redesign. 6% uplift in sales just from the redesign.
Research results show that nearly 70% of consumers were able to find packs on shelf more easily with the new designs. Of course,
Yeah.
I mean, the bright red purchase
Yeah.
intent went up by 50%. It's interesting, right?
I like seeing that analysis because, we don't do that for beginner, branding projects.
Mhm.
And, we've looked at Pentagram, we've looked at some of the other agencies out there, but Landor has done something really different here. And they've showed the results that this has
Yep.
generated. Um, Things like purchase intent, which should be one of the key KPIs to look at. Like,
Mhm.
okay, we've done a rebrand, we've done the new brand packaging for this. Did that increase or decrease purchase intent? How did it impact that? That should be one of the main KPIs. We don't talk about that enough in branding. We talk about that a lot in the UX space and UI. But in
Right.
branding, I like that Landor has taken that initiative and shown us we can talk about data here too, and we can actually use data to our advantage to then say that yes, branding is important. Here's why. You see that proof there.
You have to think about why the consumer intent went up as well. If you look at this packaging, let's look at Kellogg's packaging previously. Yeah, if you look at this one, the Chocos one,
Yeah,
why is it doing this? Yeah, this one. It
yeah,
it looks like it's chocolate, it's milk, it's understandable, but
yeah.
again, this doesn't communicate anything in the format of natural or health benefits or anything.
Correct.
This probably does it slightly, maybe,
Yeah, yeah,
because there's an actual con Photoshop, and that's what they were talking about, right? They have completely gone away with the Photoshop.
yeah,
And as far as that intent goes, it makes sense because now it's Cocoa Pops. You have the Cocoa Pops branding in your head, and what that does.
yeah,
Kellogg's
yeah.
at the background, you have that product on front. That probably works. Like communicating less here actually works.
Yes, absolutely. And when things are more clean, um, and with
Right.
just less going on, I think you tend to trust it more. It feels more
True.
clinically approved, if you would say.
Mhm.
So that's one of the things that they can do. Um, and another thing, you showed me the Cocoa Pups,
Mhm.
with those, like, you know highly illustrated design. When
Right.
I go to my supermarket, when I go to Target, we have a lot of like, local ones too. There's a
Mhm.
lot of generic brands that are in the same aisle as Kellogg's
Mhm.
now. Like Target
True.
can launch their own brand, Walmart can launch their own private label brand. So,
Mhm.
how do you stand out from all those private label brands that might be causing a lot of noise within that supermarket aisle? Well, you do it through the new Kellogg's package, which streamlines all the packages and which sets a tone of, like, once you see that red Kellogg's, that's Kellogg's. You're going to go straight to that.
It's
So,
playing on brand recall as well.
exactly. It's a psychological effect. So, this is not just about making the packaging prettier
Mhm.
and using prettier colors. This is a psychological play. It is very
True.
tactical, right? And we don't talk about that enough either. We like to say that, we hear from clients that,
Mhm.
okay, you're going to make it prettier. How much does this really cost? No, it's more about the psychological play that this is going to help you achieve, the tactical effort, and that requires significant investment to make sure we put enough thoughts and strategy into it.
This is the important part, though, which is something you talked about. Our goal:
Yeah.
recapture Kellogg's category leadership and reclaim its sacred assets.
Yes.
Well,
Yes.
Kellogg's, yes, you want Kellogg's to be the category leader, but probably there's contention with the category itself. Probably it won't be the category next time.
Yeah.
People might, as we get more and more international and more countries adopt more international cuisines, I'm pretty sure you will get a paratha in an American household,
Oh
tacos and
yeah.
all that.
Oh, of course.
Pretty sure, right?
Oh, we already see that. We
People
see
will
that for
get more.
dinner. We see that
Mhm.
for dinner meals here. We do.
So
And
Kellogg's has to think
just
about that.
just within that case study, you showed me cereal. You also showed me breakfast bars. People who don't have
True.
time to sit down and eat cereal, they'll just take a bar and eat it in the car or eat it on the train to work. So already you're seeing like, okay, the category itself has completely changed. People don't just rely
True.
on cereal now. They'll maybe, they'll go to Starbucks instead. They'll go to Dunkin' Donuts. They'll go to a local deli in the mornings.
This is so interesting that in cornflakes, previously they didn't have, they just had the cornflakes, right? But in this one,
Yeah.
they have like an actual illustration, which
Yes,
is a super flat illustration. So
that's
I
right.
don't know how I feel about that.
That's right.
But again, it grabs attention for sure.
Correct.
Kellogg's moves to responsibly sourced cornflakes. Okay,
Okay.
that's the message now.
That's good. We're seeing some
Nice.
product changes too behind the scenes, which is an important. So if you're going to put this time and effort, make sure that the product is also improved and you're promising and you're delivering
Right.
on that promise. So good to see that.
Moving on to Landor's website, I think it's one of the most fascinating ones because again,
Yeah.
they don't care about anything that talks about balance or whatever. They
Yeah.
like text, they'll blow it up.
Yes.
World
That's right.
leading brand specialists, consulting, design,
Yeah.
and experience. I love this story.
Yeah.
There's
They
the
used to be
Renault.
Landor and Fitch, and now just
Yes.
Landor in their rebrand. So they simplified that too.
What's happening? It's lagging for some reason.
Yeah.
Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart. I think it's for the Milan Symphony.
Hmm.
Topo Chico, we talked about it yesterday.
That's right.
Let's just give our final thoughts.
Yes.
Wrap it up.
Okay. 3, 2, 1. We'll get back into it. Okay.
Sure.
Okay. So before some technical difficulties, we were discussing Landor. We were just finishing that up. So yeah,
Right.
like we
So
talked about,
the work
really
section is
incredible
here.
work.
The work with Tata, Neom.
Yeah.
Again, you'll see so much of experimentation and so much of, specialty in how they work, but at the same time, there's difference in every kind of work. They've shown their different capabilities.
That's right.
Super awesome.
Really, really incredible work. A lot of great examples.
This one was a fun one.
Okay.
We learned a
Yes,
lot.
I
We
think
shared a lot of things.
this was even better than the first one because there was a lot of details that we dug into, and we talked about the business strategy behind. Was this project even needed? We asked a lot of great questions, and I felt personally like I was able to articulate what I wanted to say a little bit better than last time. So I think it comes with practice. This is
Right.
episode 2.
We'll just
Whatever
keep doing
episode
more.
3 is going to be like, we're going to just keep getting better at this.
Yes.
So again, thank you to everyone for watching.
Yes.
This was basically, you could call it "What's so great about blank brand" or branding
Yes.
case study, and we're just basically reviewing some of the world-class branding projects, talking about what worked really well with them, what we learned from them, and what you could learn from them too. So
it's about deciphering the great works and figuring out what makes them great. Hope you guys learned a lot. Subscribe. Thank you.
Thank you. Continue learning from the best. Thank you all.
Yes.